He has a solution to what's happening on the border, which is to close the border. Here's his suggestion to you, the American people.
If we don't make a deal with Congress, the border is going to be closed, 100%. And it can be changed in 45 minutes if they want to change it. Let's see what they do.
All right. No mention of the reality of what's happening on the border, and I think there's a reason for that. And also, no real reflection of what he's being told by the men and women around him who understand the realities of the border in the way the president arguably does not. However, he does have his supporters on this. Congressman Lance Gooden, Republican from Texas. Welcome to Primetime, sir. Thank you for coming on to make the case.
Thanks for having me, Chris, and thanks for coming down to Texas yesterday.
We'll be down there plenty. The situation demands it, so does the job. So, make the case. Why is closing the border a good answer?
You know, closing the border is not something anyone's excited about. The president has said several months ago, we need a wall. The Congress didn't give him one. He shut down the government. They still didn't give him one, and he said, I'm going to build it myself, declare an emergency, and he's doing that. But what we've come to now is a situation where the Mexican government, countries south of Mexico, have done nothing to police their borders. And we've got caravans of folks coming in the country. We've got drugs. We've got out-of-control immigration policy. And the president's simply saying, we've got to shut down the border if no one will do anything else. And I think he knows, I know he knows, that this will be painful. This is not something anyone's excited about. But it's come to this, and it's a sad state of affairs for our country.
Well, let's start with the premise that the president knows it would be bad. He knows that now. He said last week it would be a boost to the U.S. economy. Was he lying, or was he just ignorant?
I think the president believes that domestic products would be boosted. Certainly the California avocado industry would be boosted. I've heard a lot about avocados this week. But I think what the president believes is that this nation is at a crossroads and we've got to do something. And the president isn't just making a statement to Congress when he says, I'm going to shut the border down. He's making a statement on behalf of this country to other nations that your policies of the past are not working and we're prepared to do something, even if it's painful today. Over the long term, it's going to be worth it.
Why does his DHS secretary, who is certainly loyal to him, right? She has certainly stuck her neck out in situations that didn't serve her best interest to support this president. She went out of her way to say Mexico has been a good partner for the amount of resources they have, for what they're under in terms of their own government duress, on the caravans, on the real crisis on the border, which is kids and families, that they have been helpful. That contradicts the president. Who's right?
Well, I think politically it's always popular to be nice to folks. And, you know, the people that run the administration under the president are going to be positive. There's no reason to pick a fight if they don't have to. And I think they also leave those big statements to the president. They say if the president wants to go out on a limb and shut down the border, then let's let him make that decision. And he's prepared to take the bullet for the American people. He doesn't mind the bad press. He doesn't mind whether it's this show or any other saying how ignorant he is. That's a belief that the media shares. He refers to them as the fake news, and the people I represent agree with him. But he's willing to do what's right for the American people.
I think he just gave us the key, Congressman. This sounds good to the base. Sounds strength. Sounds like strength. Harshness as strength. Sells with a certain population of your state and many states around this country. So the president can say things that may not be accurate,
necessarily for the base as much as it is for these other countries who are saying, come on up through our country, we'll let you into America. We're not policing our borders. The last guest for Anderson Cooper was stating how countries south of Mexico have open borders, and all they have to do is get across Mexico, and then they're telling their citizens they can get into America. But and let's not just talk about immigration. This is a drug issue as well. One of the things you said and many others when we were talking during the shutdown, and people were saying we didn't need this border wall, they said, well, the border wall's not going to solve your drug problem. All those come through the port of entries.
It does.
Well, we're talking about shutting down the ports of entries. We're going to shut down the border if the president decides to.
Right, but what the experts will tell you is
and say the experts will tell you that what we've been doing isn't working.
Well,
nothing.
They'll say it's not working.
You were on the border yesterday.
It's complicated. I've been to the border dozens of times.
I know you were there yesterday.
The
There's a great video that you put on your show's website just today, and you were talking with an agent. Everything he said is true. Yeah. Congress hasn't agreed.
He's not the one who lies to the American people about the reality.
The Congress and the president, we need to work together. The president has said
doing nothing.
He's
That's
going
what I want
to shut down the border if that's what it takes.
But
we've got to send a message to other countries that this won't work.
But it's not a message to the other countries.
We've got to send a message to members of Congress, to other
Well, that's
countries
different.
that what we're not doing is
That's
that
different.
what we're doing is not
Why?
working.
And let's answer that last one, okay? Why aren't you doing anything? This is
Well,
good to
the
hear you here
Democratic
saying we have
House
to do
won't
something.
even
You've
acknowledge
said
that we
nothing
have
on
a
the floor.
border control issue.
But why don't
the
you?
Democratic leaders
Why don't you
are
hold
not
hearings to give the men and women on the border who you say you care about, who
I
are
would
working
love
in your
to hold a
state,
hearing.
to give them what
I
they've
don't know
asked
if you
for?
recall, but the Democrats control the
I
House
know,
now.
but
I'm
why
in the
don't,
minority,
but why
I'd
don't
love
you
to have a
raise your
hearing.
voice? Why don't you say
I'm
they
on
need
this
what
show
they
right
say they
now.
need?
I said
And
that
they're
every
not
day.
asking you for
we
offense.
We have got to do something in this country, but the first thing you've got to do is acknowledge that there's actually a problem. Democrats won't even acknowledge it. Privately in the
That's
hallways
not-
of Congress,
that is- it's
they'll
not
say it to
accurate
me.
or
They'll
fair.
say, Lance, we've
not
got a
accurate or
serious
fair.
issue, but we can't
It's
talk
not
about
accurate or
this
fair.
publicly because
And
we're going to lose
and
on
here's
it.
the political mix on this. What is the crisis? If you go down there and talk to your men and women, and I know you do this.
Sure, you were
They'll
there yesterday.
say, but forget about going there. It's good to go. You don't have to go to know. You will hear, we cannot handle these kids and these families. We cannot handle them. Our rules don't allow us to. Our resources don't allow us to. We've been telling these people for months, yes, fencing helps in certain ways. It doesn't help us with this, and they know it, and you've done nothing.
So
You
we
don't
should
address it.
continue
My
to
suggestion
encourage
is-
other countries to send everyone this way? That doesn't make any sense.
No, well, you are encouraging it by cutting their funding, right?
Yeah,
Because then it's only going to create more hardship and desperation. You'll
We've
get
got to
more
increase
flow.
funding for border security. We've got to build meaningful walls, fences, whatever you want to call it. We've got to have this in the areas where crossings are easier. The president's not saying we need a wall from
If you close the
from sea
border,
to
the men
signing
and women
sea.
there will tell you the migrants keep coming, Congressman.
That's because these other nations encourage them to. That's because this nation
And if you cut their
encourages
funding,
them
they'll
to.
encourage them more.
We need to close the border if the president believes that's what it takes, but we've got to send a message to other nations that enough is enough. We're not going to open our doors if you encourage other nations
I
to
don't
send
understand
their...
how punching yourself in the face encourages other people not to hit you. But
We punch
Congressman, I
ourselves
appreciate
in the
you making
face
it.
every day by not closing our borders and doing something meaningful to solve the problem. We've
Making
got
your
to fix
border
it.
hard to pass and processed effectively is different than closing it. And that's what the president says he's going to do. We'll see.
The
But
president
I
is
appreciate you
prepared to
making
send
the
a
case.
message, and I'm prepared to support him, and I do. Thank
And
you so much for having
and I
me on.
appreciate you taking the opportunity to
Thank
do it
you.
on this show. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congressman Lance Gooden. So